Hello everybody. Today we're going to discuss a bit about if statements. So what I'm going to do is just create a basic little console app. Actually before we get into that, let me make this first here. Then we'll discuss what if statements are. That way we'll be ready to go. So I'll just put in a date, whatever today's date is usually what I put in. Intro ifs. And create. All right, so let's discuss if statements while this is getting built here. So an if statement or conditional statement is effectively just a statement that allows us to make a choice in our program. So as of right now in this class, we have the ability to have some user input. We can type in some things. We can accept variables and change them throughout a program. We could do some math. But if we want to do something different in a program, we'd have to go into the code and change all the code. What if we want to do something different if the person says they're male or female? Ask different questions or display a different image on the screen or something. Then we need some sort of condition to check that and then run a section of code, one if it's female, one if it's male, or something like that. Or if they choose one option, it displays this. If they choose another one, they display that. Hence, if statements. So a good example of an if statement would probably be a thermostat, right? If, let's say it's summertime, and you set the thermostat to 72. What happens when the thermostat, the internal temperature of your house, gets to be like 73 or 74? What happens to the air conditioner? It turns on, right? So if the temperature is above that 72, the air conditioner turns on. And it stays on until you get it right back down to the temperature you're supposed to be at, 72. So if it hits 72 or lower, then the air conditioner will turn off. And it's the same for heater in the wintertime, except in reverse. If the temperature is set to 72 and it's 60 something, it turns the heater on. If it's above, whatever amount you say, it's going to turn it off. So that would be your basic examples of some if statements. If you're thinking about video games, well, a door is locked. I go to the door, it goes clang, clang, it won't open. Maybe it requires a key, maybe I have to press a button. Well, I'm going to need an if statement to check and see if I have that. If you have a key, then the door opens. Animation plays, you can go through. If the button is pressed, then the door opens. In those puzzle type games and stuff like that. And the if is just checking to see if something is true and false. If you have a key, if that's true, then the door opens. If you press the button, if that's true, then the door opens. That's essentially what it is. If you want a real-life example of this, let me see here. I usually show this to my class. This is a little game. A lot of people have played it, but effectively, you pick something, and of course, it's popping stuff up for me. And once you pick something, a character, object, animal, it can be anything. I usually pick characters. It can be from a movie, from a game. You do have to know what that character is or a little bit about it. You can't just pick something you don't know anything about, because it's going to ask you questions. And this is going to determine what the thing is you picked. So if I pick a character, let's go with, what's a good one for this? Well, we could pick the genie here, for example. I'll pick the genie. And I just click a character. Is he a boy? Well, I assume he is. Does he exist? Not really. Is your character from Japanese anime? Nope, he's on the page in front of me. Does he have a human head? Yes. So it's going to ask you a bunch of questions. Has he been in a movie? Don't think he's had a movie. Does he wear a hat? Yes. Is your character a genie? Yes. Is your character depicted through a screen? Yes. Is he associated with spirals? And you'll see, all of a sudden it seemed like it was on the right path, and then it jumps into a different question. But does your character ask questions? Yes, he does. Is your character usually living with his children? I have no idea, but I'm going to say no. Does he wear a blue shirt? Yes. Does he have a mustache and a beard? You see how specific it's getting here. It's the Akinator. And yes, it is. So this is a good example of some basic if statements. If you made this choice, and if you made that choice, if you made this choice and this choice, well, it filters down the pool of possible answers. So this allows me to basically, figure out what it is, or at least that allows the game to figure out what it is. So let's take a look at how this works in action. And you can play that game all you want, by the way. I have only managed to fool it twice. If you go through the thing and it doesn't get it, it'll go through, I think, at least 2 more times before it gives up. But I've only managed to fool it twice, so every other time, it got it eventually. All right, well, anyway, I'll make sure all of my stuff is as it's supposed to be here. Did I malfunction that somehow? Let's see. Pretty sure it was that, right? It should be lowercase. Why are you upset about my semicolon? And if I get rid of the semicolon, it's upset about that. Well, let's see. I'm probably just doing something wrong. This is one of the nice things. I should show you this as we're going to be having a programming assignment soon, more than likely. Or you may already see it. But what you're going to want to do when you're having some issues putting something in, open up an old project. So File, Open Project. You should save all your projects wherever you can. And in this case, let's see, more variables. Let's go with that. I'll hit the solution, and that's how I'm going to open it. Now, if you're using a different thing altogether, then you may need to do something a little different, but let's see. Oh, I forgot the name, STD at the end. That would explain why I'm having an issue. Okay, well. But as you can see, I opened this up, and I can see the code. So this is what you're going to need to do when you make your own project. When I give you a project, it's not going to be anything that you haven't done. Now, you'll just need to take the parts out and make whatever I ask you to build. The way I usually put it is I give you a bunch of Legos, and I show you how to build different things. So there we go. And once you know how to build those things, I tell you to take those pieces and make something else. So let's go ahead and make something. I'm going to give you some Legos here. So I'm just going to simply just have a basic integer number equals, let's say 10 or something. And I'll start with, we'll zoom in here for everybody. Okay. So if, and I can say number equals 10, let's say. And I always comment at the end of my braces like this. And I'm just going to, do a little print here. So cout. And if you remember, it's 10. All right, so I'm going to run this, and we should be able to see it go. Compiles, it checks everything, make sure it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. And there it is. It's 10 appears on my screen. So there we go. I can just press enter and get rid of that. And it goes away. Now, I'm going to scroll on down. Back in. What this is, I'm going to have a true-false condition here. So if number equals 10, if that is true, it will run whatever is in these braces right here. Now, if it's false, it'll just ignore this whole statement and go to whatever's after that. Now, the equal sign, let me show you what this does here. Equals just means is something equal to. Now, not to be confused with a regular equal, which is an assignment. One equal, just it says up here, for example, this number is going to be set to 10. I'm going to put 10 in that variable. This says, is this number 10? I'm doing a comparison. This ends up, again, being a Boolean at the end, whether this is true or false. And in fact, I could just go in here and do that. If true, and that would run because this ends up being true at the end. Of course, it's always going to be true because I put that in there. I need some sort of condition here normally. Now, I can do it this way, and this is a single if. If I do another if, if number equals, let's say 9, for example. It's 9. Right? Now, and you can be a little more descriptive with your ifs if you want to. I just find that it helps a lot when we're trying to find errors to mark each of these braces. Because when you click it, you see where it ends. And this is a very easy way to just break your program altogether. I miss an ending brace and I try to run it. And immediately it tells me there are errors. Usually it would highlight, but this time it's really not. Depends on where that brace is missing, whether it highlights or not. But get used to some of those errors and what they mean. You'll see sometimes it explicitly tells you kind of what's missing. Other times, not as much. Like if I just am missing a closing brace here, it may or may not, depending on the IDE, show you something's wrong. Now with this, I have two if statements. So I have one if here and one if here. These are two separate questions that I'm asking. Is number 9, if it is, or is number 10, it's going to print that out. Is the number 9? If it is, it's going to print that out. Now, it's going to ask both of these questions. That means whether this is true or false, it's still going to ask this question here. And if I went in here and just said, I don't know, number equals 9 here, now both of them will run because the first one, it's 10, it runs, it changes it to 9. Now it's 9, so it's going to print this out. So if I did this, it would actually run both of them. So if I just do a quick run just to show you. And that's why you do have to be a little careful when we're doing this. It's 10, it's 9. And I forgot to put in my extra little slash at the end of this. There we go. Oh, and that's /n, by the way. Okay, I didn't actually finish my little layout here, so we can also do greater than, obviously less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. We also have an exclamation mark just means not, and we could say not equal to this way. So those are the things we could plug in this spot here. We could have equal, we could have not equal to if I wanted to, like that. It depends on what you're trying to ask. Now, what if I only want to ask, if I want to ask a series of questions, but if one of them works, I don't want to check other things. Well, in that case, we would use an if-else if is what it's called. So, if-else. So I'm going to do the same statement we've got here. If number equals 10, print, yep, it's 10. /n, I'll add that. Not print. I'm going back to my Python stuff I've been doing all week. Get rid of those, not necessary. There we go. All right, and I'm going to say else. See out. It's else. Now, And I will just come down here and just say if. So an if else, and I can have this else up here if I want to. That's usually how I write it out. The program itself may automatically put it down there. I tend to like it a little bit more up here. It doesn't matter, the program doesn't care where it's spaced at. So with this, I have two choices. If the number is 10, it'll run this first one. If it's anything other than 10, it will run here. So in this case, I have two choices. The one's very narrow, it's just 10. And the other is every other number in existence, pretty much. So if I run this, obviously it's going to be 9. Oh wait, no, did I change that? No, I changed, it's here. So number is 10, I change it to 9 when this hits. I come here, it's 9. So this should say it's else when I run it. There it is. So as you can see, it's 10, it's 9, and then it's else. Now, if I were to change this particular line here and comment it out, right there, what's going to happen? Well, it'll print it's 10. We'll go here. It's not 9, so it will ignore that. It's 10, so it should print, yep, it's, oh, I tried to write in 10. There we go. Let's see if that works. It's 10. Yep, it's 10. There we go. So that's how that works. Now, again, I have two choices here. Now, what if I want to check between a couple of different choices? Well, I could say, if number equals 10, there's a couple of different ways I can do this. See out. It's still 10. I can say else if number equals 9, for example. I can, it's definitely 9. And then I can have an else in this case. And again, I usually like to do it this way. It looks like my IDE doesn't like that, or prefers to have that extra space, but it's entirely up to you. End if. So I will see out. It's not 9 or 10. Okay, so with this, I have our first choice, 10. If that fails, it'll go to the next else if here, and check to see if it's 9. If that fails, it'll go to, I can have as many of these actually as I want. I could have like 20 else ifs. I could have 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, for each one. And else would catch all those that were not listed in this list. In this case, I've only got 2. If number's 9, number's 10, and if it's another number, then I would go here. Obviously, it's 10, so it should say it's still 10. If I come up here and make it 9 again, by erasing that little thing in my first if here, let's see. It's 10, and then it changed to 9. It's else, it's definitely 9. Okay, it looks like I left off one of my /ns here, but there we go. And here, and here, there we go, and here. I'll just add those. That way it puts it on a different line. So now, in this case, it's 9, right? It was 10, we change it to 9, we come here, it prints it's 9. This fails, so it goes to the else, which is why it said it's else. And then we get here, well, it's not 10, it's 9. So we would put in it's definitely 9. So I've got a series of ifs that it's going to check. Now, it's only going to run one of these. If this one ends up being true, it's not going to look at anything else. It's just going to immediately go to the brace and then run any code after this. If this fails, it'll go to the next one on the list and check it. It's just going to sequentially go down until it gets to this else. And then it'll run the else if it made it that far. That's kind of your basic if statements here. And again, we can do if statements with Booleans. I could come up here and say Boolean check equals true. And actually, I think it's is it bool, I believe, here. And then I can just say, well, if I could say if check equal. Well, let's do a different one here. I'm just going to make a few spaces here. I can just say if check equals true. See out. There. There you go. And it's true, right? So if I run this, I should get the little bleh pop up. There it is. Bleh. And again, I forgot my little slash ins, but there you go. Now, if I could also do it this way, I could just say if check. Check is going to be true or false at the end of the day. So this statement here is going to equate to true or false at the end. So is check equal to true? It is true. So that's true. This whole statement becomes true. So if I do it this way, check is true. It's going to run. If I make this false, then this would fail. It depends on how you want to write it. What if I said if check does not equal true? Well, it does equal true right now, so it's going to fail. The alternate way to write that would be this one. If not check, which basically means if check equals false. There's literally probably about 5 different ways to write the same thing here. It really doesn't matter as long as it does what you want it to do. There's not necessarily a right or wrong way for this. But that's your basic intro to if statements here. We've got your basic just standard ifs, one with check, one with, integers. Of course, we could use doubles or strings and other things too. And then, of course, we've got a little if-else where we have a choice, and it's either going to be one or the other. And then we have multiple choices we could go down, and I only have one, but we could have multiple else-ifs. And then the else is the catch-all that will catch anything that's not in that list. That's what our else does. If the first one fails, it goes to this little else. But that's your basic rundown on if statements.